It is in between. Richard teased it. Dad bods. Tell us all about it. Go.
What do you know about dad bods, Richard? The only one here qualified to talk about dad bods is technically Todd.
Why would Todd qualify as a dad bod and you wouldn't qualify as a dad bod?
Because I'm the only dad.
I'm not
here.
a dad.
Go, because you're not a dad.
I just have a bod.
Well, I think it means dad is supposed to imply mature. No, I don't think it's supposed to imply whether you have kids or not.
So if you missed any of the episodes,
it's a result of Todd being pregnant.
The
resulting dad bod.
I was going to drop that news right now. I am pregnant at 53 years old. I am having my first child. Now, my wife had our first child, but I'm having my first child. So this comes from earlier in the week when Richard playfully flexed his pecs during the opening part of an episode, and we've talked about it. And this is also, I think I speak for Sean, how proud and impressed we are of our friend Richard and how he takes care of himself and how far he's gotten along in those achievements. But I think Sean and I, at the same time, feel pretty comfortable in saying we are very average as far as types of bodies go. And I struggle with it. I try to keep my weight off, and I'll go through cycles where I keep it off and I go back and forth. However, this whole thing of a dad bod, it feels like a social media campaign of guys with poochy bellies that decided to make it hip, and so they started this whole dad bod craze. And then you see all these different things online. Women actually have chosen dad bods as the sexiest. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah, right.
Sure. I specifically went and looked up one of those articles. Yeah, reading right here. Apparently, it's a new survey from Planet Fitness done at the end of 2019 about how women prefer dad bods over six packs.
Bullshit. Yeah, Planet Fitness is really trying to sell their lifestyle of, hey, look, they like fat people, so you don't need to work out here.
No, they want you to work out. They just want you to enjoy their free pizza. That's all.
Wait, they have pizza at Planet Fitness?
Have you not heard of this thing?
No.
They have pizza and donuts and bagels and shit hanging out.
Well, I need to start working out.
Part of that, exactly. You're gonna go get on the treadmill for a little bit and get you a slice.
Well, I'll do the treadmill after I slice. I got a carbo load first.
Yeah, I got a carbo load. Get ready for it.
Uh-huh.
Well, the one thing that I do like this is that this article specifically mentions the men that can accept the fact that dad bods are okay. They're a lot more relaxed, are a lot more confident. And that make them a lot more comfortable in who they are, particularly knowing that women aren't necessarily, going after an unachievable goal. I mean, that's one of the things you think about. The idea of getting super lean and super cut is almost unachievable unless you have your goal is to go on a stage of a bodybuilding competition, unless your goal is to be a model in a magazine, like women who get thin or focus on fitness. You can't maintain this 24/7. It's not a thing.
Yeah, like Kumail Nanjiani, who's in the Eternals movie coming up. Anybody who's seen that picture that was out of him lately where he had just absolutely ripped, he said, yeah, I couldn't keep that up during quarantine. There's no way I could do it.
Well, there was also Zac Efron came out with some comment about the way he chiseled his body for that Baywatch film, and he even said it was the worst moment of my life because it's for him it was unattainable. And I don't want a chiseled body. My goal is this, and I've decided this in my weight journey, is if I'm within 10 pounds of what I think my goal weight is, I'm pretty happy with myself. And I've recently gotten back around that because COVID had me sitting around going, man, I'm sick of working all day and sitting in one room. I'm going to eat a bag of chips. I cut that out, and I went back to it. I was like, okay, I'm just going to watch what I eat. I'm going to go walk every night, and that's all I want is to be relatively healthy because I'm not trying to attract a mate. I had a relationship with one woman for 30 years. I don't need somebody else in my life. My goal is just to be relatively healthy and my pants fit.
I mean, my journey with eating, with watching, counting macros and all that kind of stuff was more about getting better at CrossFit. I mean, the side result was great, but it was really about how can I get better at CrossFit? If I'm 3 pounds leaner, it makes a handstand push-up a lot easier. It makes a muscle up a lot easier. It makes this thing a lot easier. But I do agree with the study on some level. If you can be confident, confidence is a lot more attractive than necessarily having a ripped body,
Yeah.
It's like Like that
This
John
year,
Hamm
we are all
sketch on
students.
Saturday.
At Verizon, we're in.
What is
Sorry.
that?
All of a sudden, my browser I have up there decided to play a video file, even though I had that tab muted.
All right.
Thanks,
Dun, dun,
Verizon,
dun,
who pays my
dun.
paychecks. Thanks so much.
Well, do you feel the women have curves is also kind of the same thing as a dad bod? Do you like women that have curves, or versus would the same be said for women who like dad bods, right?
Yeah, I don't want somebody. I like it when it looks like they've eaten a sandwich, that they had a meal.
I will say that from time to time on somebody on TV. Man, they need to eat a sandwich. Men and women.
I don't mean to
Yes.
sound so safe in my portrayal of what I find attractive in a woman. I can either like a very petite woman, or I can like a very curvy woman. I can either like a woman with perfect facial features, or I think Sean knows this very well. I'm actually very
big
attracted
nose.
to women with bigger noses or crooked noses, something that is not quote unquote right. So I don't know that I don't give a crap. It's more about, is there something about them that attracts me than it is that they need to eat a sandwich. Anybody that's either very overweight or very underweight, I worry about them for health reasons more than I do my attraction to them, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Fair. I mean, I do. It is hard to look at modern society sometimes and not want to have people be healthier.
Agreed.
But I also am not into the concept body shaming or putting my aesthetic on somebody else's goals or lives.
Right.
Yeah, everybody's fighting secret battles you know nothing about, so be nice to everyone because you don't know why they have that weight on.
I mean,
don't have that weight on.
The ease, though, the ease right now, or the tendency to probably pack on more calories is a lot easier because of the foods and things that we have. I don't want to be preachy, but it's easy to eat a bag of chips and then eat a bag of chips every other day. I mean, it's not hard to find a lot of calories or a lot of fat or a lot of salt or a lot of protein in our meals because we just have such a rich diet right now. It's fantastic we can get all this stuff, but it's easy to overindulge.
Well, and also with the times we're in, to what I said, the reason I had put on some pounds was that I was sitting here, and at the end of the day, I don't know, I don't do a lot of feeling pity for myself, but I think you feel the stress and you're in that moment of, I need to relax. I'm a little hungry. I'm going to have a few chips. I'll be fine. And Richard can sympathize with this. I know he and I have spoken. You like salty chips just as I do, crunch and all that kind of thing. And it's the ease that it's a bag that you go in there and you get it. It's salty. It's fulfilling. And suddenly when you consume a whole bag of it, you're pretty much screwed for your calorie intake for the day. But at the same time, my mental well-being now says, hey, I feel better, even though 6 months down the line, I'm like, well, shit, I got weight back on and now it's got to get off. So
I think for me, the easy one is actually alcohol. I mean, that's a really, really easy go-to because they look like empty. They feel like empty calories,
like water. Come on.
But they're not empty calories. But, we talk about eating a bag of chips. I mean, a lot of people right now dealing with lockdown have medicated in some way.
Yeah.
Right. Whether that medication is food, whether that medication is alcohol, whether that medication is exercise, whether that medication is binge watching TV, whether that, we're finding ways to escape a very unnatural situation right now with the pandemic. And I've definitely noticed around me, when I work at the store and so on, I've seen people that have definitely put on some weight over the last couple of months that weren't there before. Yeah. And not as a judgment, just that's where we are.
I don't think there's any judgment to that. I think that is absolute truth, and I think people see that we're all struggling to get by with this in whatever way we can. Once again, you don't know that person's struggles and those dilemmas. We're all doing what we can.
I don't feel bad because I've actually lost weight during the pandemic just because we don't keep shitty food in the house if at all possible, so I don't have junk to eat.
Well, yeah. Well, JJ won't keep junk around for you. She's also she works with the same guy that I do to kind of count macros, and I think she had a moment where she had like some gluten-free cookies and some chips and one eating a handful or whatever. She's like, I'm throwing this away now.
Right in the garbage.
She cleaned the house. But Todd, you have a kid in the house, and that's kind of hard to not have snack foods around.
It is very hard. And in fact, I joke with her when she goes to college next year. I'm like, great, now I don't have to have chips in the house anymore. But, even she's very petite. She's very much the reincarnation of my mom, who's a very small woman, very teeny tiny. And Abby is at that age where she can eat whatever she wants, and it doesn't show. It just burns away. And I keep telling her, I'm like, baby, listen to me.
It's not gonna last forever.
You are barely touching 5'1", okay? You're tiny. You are a tiny boned thing. Eventually, that's going to catch up with your ass. Because right now, she's doing a little bit of going to school, distance school, but doing a lot of schoolwork at home. And so when she comes to do her classes at home, she'll stop at Sonic and she'll come in, Dad, I'm going to go eat. And I'm like, that shit's going to show up eventually. Got to quit eating that processed garbage. But she's also the kid at the end of the day when I'm like, hey, I'm going to go get stuff for dinner. I want us to go to Whole Foods because it's all organic and healthy. I'm like, says the girl that just shoved Sonic down her throat.
Well, I do think about that. I do think about the fact that you let her enjoy her foods now, because at some point that metabolism will catch up to you, and it'll be a slow process, and most people don't realize it. I'm like, wow, I just can't have all this food. Oh my gosh, I wonder how many people listen to this like laughing, like realizing that they're either that age where they can have it all or they can't. Or and the thing is, it gets worse as you get older. Like, it's not like, the teens and the 20s and the 30s and the 40s, that sedentary, that metabolism slows decade after decade after decade. And I just can't have that giant meal anymore and not notice it like a few days later that I'm like,
oh yeah. I remember, 20 years ago, I would go to work, and at lunch there was a Domino's that was within walking distance, and so and they did $5 medium pizza. So I get a medium pizza and eat that for lunch.
I eat a whole
entire thing,
fucking pizza. I would go to McDonald's, and it wasn't one value meal. I needed a value meal plus I needed an extra burger on top of it, or maybe some nuggets or something. Mm-hmm. And I'll have a big Coke, and I'm just gonna have. I didn't have it like multiple days in a row. Oh, yeah, now you give me
yeah, now you give me a New York slice of pizza, and that fills me up. I'm like, ugh.
I as a musician, I would always, I'll go play a 3-4 hour gig, and hey, as a drummer,
you're burning calories.
You, as a drummer, you really burn calories. You're using all your limbs. In fact, there are now aerobics people that teach drumming as the focus of it, which I'd always joke. I'm like, somebody could do that. Even it was like every night I would go out and I would have Whataburger, and I am so predictable. I walk in, it's a number 5, no onions, water size with Diet Coke, so a big ass thing of fries. Oh, at about 30 when I'm still playing those gigs, and so I'm like, where does this gut come from? Even though I'm burning off countless calories, it doesn't matter. That body just eventually says, I don't need that kind of caloric intake anymore. Chill out. So it was never, for me. And I think this probably, with the dad body argument, is the case for so many people. I never changed my eating habits to the point where I was consuming more to gain, and I gained more. It's that my body slowed down, and suddenly the consumption of what I had began to pile on.
I mean, that's one of the things. Now that I'm kind of been watching like macro counting kind of stuff, I am curious to see what the trend is over time. Like, if I work with the same guy over the period of time, will I continue to see my numbers shift and change? Will they stay about the same? What will my output be and input, in terms of calories and so on? One of the fallacies of going to Whole Foods and having healthy food is that it can still be packed with all sorts of calories and fat and all sorts of things. So eating healthy is a great goal. But even before I was doing macro counting, I thought I was eating healthy all the time, olive oils and avocado and all this stuff. But it wasn't getting me the lean that I needed for CrossFit, because it was just unbridled calories, even though they were organic or healthy. And that's really hard for a lot of people to make that transition to, what am I consuming? What do I do? But I also like this idea of being comfortable with who you are. And if dad bod is what gets you there, makes you feel comfortable, go for it. I think confidence is attractive. Intelligence is attractive. Humor is attractive. It doesn't have to come from a six pack.
So when Abby goes into those conversations with me about we have to go to Whole Foods to get things, the dad in you comes out and it's not that I want to win, but I said, okay, here's what I want to teach you about Whole Foods. Number one, it costs more to shop there. Their things are more expensive. So realize if you're on a budget, you want to think about this. Are you getting these things? Yes, you are. But I'll say the same things to her. I'm like, okay, babe, you and I love Brussels sprouts, but what do I do with those Brussels sprouts? If I'm bathing them in olive oil and putting a lot of bacon fat on them to make them taste, here's a different conversation. It's not just what you buy and you put in your basket. It's what you put on